and gentlemen, welcome to King of Kodiak. I'm Kodiak. This is episode 27, and today with me is Sir Tristan of the Burning Lands. How are you doing today?
I am fantastic. I'm happy to be here.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. With no hesitation, if we could, let's get to the bare necessities. How long have you been playing Amcard?
Okay, well, I started in roughly between 1991 and 1992. The fog of age is kind of set in on that one, and I played consistently until 2001. And then I had to take a hiatus and I left and I came back in 2018. So I've only really been playing for like what, 7 years, 8 years. But during that 17 years, I was still friends with everybody and I was still working in Las Cruces, and, I was still very much aware of a lot of things that were going on, and I was still friends with most of the people that were still there. So it's not like I was really gone. I was just gone.
Okay, that's fair.
But yeah, I started with version 6, with rule version 6, and then came back for rule version 8.
So you just missed 7.
I just barely, yeah. But it's all very confusing, I got to tell you, because V6 was definitely different. I'm still to this day trying to learn version 8. I'm like, it's the rule book's very confusing. It's like, oh hey, this effect, and I'm like, gotta page back 10 pages to find out what that is, and then back 10 pages over and back 10 pages. It's just so it's definitely fun. But yeah, so 91, between 91 and 92, so right around the same time that that Sir Randall started coming out. Maybe he was a little bit before me, maybe a little bit after, but we're fairly contiguous.
Okay, we do have some questions asking about Sir Randall in his early time, but not yet. The question that carries on the time is, how long have you been aware of Amcard? 91 is pretty close to the beginning, so about 8 years from the beginning of Amcard, but how much more time were you aware of it?
Well, I found out about it the same time that the founders of Dragonspine found out about it. There was a science fiction convention at the old Hilton, which is the Hotel Encanto, and the Burning Lands people came up there and did a demo for the Sci-Fi Con. I was upstairs running a Blood Bowl tournament, and so I actually missed the demonstration. But my friends, my nerd friends, like Ironpaw and Quicksilver and Alaric and Andasar and the Dragonspine founders. I didn't initially go in with them because I'd monkeyed around with the SCA a little bit before that. But the SCA group in Las Cruces was very cliquey and very exclusionary and very not fun. So back then, they're great people now, but back then it wasn't what it is now. But so I just kind of I was kind of peering over their shoulder for a little while, and watching them make swords out of couch foam and PVC, and and duct tape the whole thing up, and then baseball bats swinging at each other with 20-pound swords. But so I was kind of a hanger on for a little while, and then I started coming out to the park, and then me and my mom made me a tunic and a tabard, and that was basically it. I got some swords from somebody. I don't even remember where I got my first set of swords, but I didn't have shields, so I started playing monk because I didn't have any armor. It didn't have armor, and it didn't have shields or anything. So I made throwing weapons out of pipe insulation and duct tape, and I had a sword, and I played monk.
Nice. Okay. What about the name, the persona, Tristan? Where does that come from?
Okay. Yeah, I'm a history weirdo, like really seriously a history weirdo. And in high school, I wrote a research paper about the Crusades, and I fell in love with the not necessarily the people, but the ideal, not the operation, but the ideal of a military holy order. I'm not religious myself, but their dedication. These guys, a lot of these guys, they were knights, they were nobles who were giving up, all of their money and their castles, and and they couldn't be married, and they're running off to to protect pilgrims in the Holy Land, in the Outermer, and when after the Crusades. So the Templars were especially one of my things, and all the fun conspiracy theories about them, and all that stuff was great. And then when I started Amtgard, I was like, well, the name Tristan comes from the Arthuriad. I had an Arthuriad class in college, and Tristan he was always my favorite knight of the Le Morte d'Arthur, King Arthur stuff. So I picked the name Tristan, and I was like, well, I'm going to be a Templar, but since I wasn't a knight, I was going to be a Templar sergeant, and sergeants wear black, which went really well with my monk persona, with the monk stuff. So I basically played monk like like a holy monk, like a crusader monk.
Okay.
Because I could heal, I would do all that. But honestly, I I didn't really get into the heavy role playing elements, because we really didn't have a lot of heavy role playing elements back in the day. It was more of it was more like a society, more like the SCA light, with boffer weapons and a little bit of fantasy thrown in. We didn't, I tried to do some role playing during court, and we would all attempt to do that sort of stuff, but it wasn't a super thing. Persona basically determined how you were going to dress, and what you were going to do, but it wasn't anything like it is now. I like it the way it is now.
Okay. So the carry on question is, has your persona evolved? It sounds like, given that it's more role playing now, that it would have.
Yeah, well, I decided that there's a military holy order called the Knights of St. Lazarus, and they're lepers. And because I don't, I'm not young and pretty anymore, I've decided that I'm going to be I'm going to do a green cross instead of a red cross. And because I know there's a lot of people in Amtgard now that do white tabards with red crosses, and that's fine. It's great. There's an entire company called the Templars. So I wanted to kind of shift away and do my own thing.
Mhm.
So like I'm gonna, wear my white, and I'm going to, for Halloween, sometime maybe in the future,
Yeah.
I'm gonna bandage up my face, or do something like that, and juice up the leper thing, because it's cool,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's cool, and it's something that you don't see a lot of people doing, and I want to, and these knights, they were pretty incredible, and the Knights of St. Lazarus still exist today, and they're a hospital order, and they provide a lot of money for charity, and for hospitals and stuff like that. So I wanted something that was a little more positive than the Templars, because the Templars have all that Holy Blood, Holy Grail stuff, and the Da Vinci Code stuff stacked on top of them, and I wanted something that was a little cleaner, something that wasn't so laden with negativity. That's something that today's Amtgard is a lot different than our previous Amtgard. Everyone is a lot more sensitive, and I don't mean that word to be a negative. People are a lot more aware of things that are not acceptable. There's marginalized populations, and we don't need to be mocking them or imitating them. And so I figured that something that was a little more esoteric, something that was a little bit further outside of what people even know about, would be easier for me to do.
That's super cool. I like that a lot. I'm already seeing like Lady Stillhat from Dragonspine drawing a rendition of you with the full mask, with a full wrap mask and the green cross. I'll talk to her. I mean, she's in the chat, she's aware, but um, yeah, it sounds super awesome.
Well, my Facebook profile picture is actually a chibi. It's a chibi. It was a chibi Templar that my daughter like drew bandages on the face and changed the cross to red, and it still has pink hair, but because it's my daughter. But so yeah, it's but like I said, it's not stepping on anyone's, it's stepping on as few toes as possible while still being fun and unique and still neat.
Absolutely. So, Sir Tristan, what would you say is the award that you're most proud of receiving?
Any Order of the Griffin that I have, that's that bar none. It's I I have 12 Orders of the Griffin. We didn't have a masterhood of. I know that Dragonspine has a Master Griffin. We did. I don't believe we had it when I was around, but I've honored every Griffin that I've ever received. It's to me, it's the only war. It's the only award that ever meant anything to me at all, because I was very heavy into fighting, but and we talked about this before. I would never. I'm very careful about taking my shots and not sloughing, because I don't want to steal something from someone, and that's what sloughing is. It's theft. It's theft, and it's a theft from myself. It would be a theft of my integrity and honor, and that's so yeah. The Griffins that I've received have been the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. Because it, and I'm a count, I'm Viscount, and I've got, I'm a sword knight, but the sword knight and the Viscount, all that stuff was basically, it was part and parcel to the Griffins that I got. Taking every shot, regardless of whether anybody saw it or anybody heard it or anything, made me a much better fighter than I would have been if I had learned how to creatively slough.
I like that. Anyway. I like that a lot. Man, we're not even out of the bare necessities yet, and I'm already like leaning in, like, tell me more of this awesomeness. Anyways, what's your favorite battle game?
Favorite battle game, bridge battles. Because a bridge battle, you've heard the story of the berserker on the bridge. The berserker on the bridge holding off the English army. That's what I love about a bridge battle. It doesn't matter how many people are on one side or the other. It's however wide the bridge is times how many ever people can fit on it, and that's it. It's and that's where the fighting gets nasty. You just you're just right in there, and you're just exchanging blow after blow. And then of course, it was always happened to me is I'd be in the front row, I'd be having a great time, and a little yellow ball would bounce off my chest. I'd be like, oh, dang it. So I had to walk and go back to Nirvana. I'd be like, man.
All right. And what, in those bridge battles, what's your favorite class to play?
Oh, Paladin. Paladin. I haven't played any class. I played Paladin and Anti-Paladin since I got knighted. Paladin was the only class that truly fit the persona that I'd created for myself. I played Anti-Paladin for a while because I was seriously disgruntled about an election that I lost. But so I turned evil. But but it didn't last long. I mean, I'm 6th level in both of them, but Paladin it's actually a fairly weak class, especially in version 8. There's version 6 was a bit stronger. The immunities were better, and if you class the immunities with a decent fighter with some decent armor, you can really wreck a team, especially in the old days when we could shatter people out. My squire Garrick, Sir Garrick, he was one of the founders of Polaris, I believe. He went up to Minnesota after I left. He would play warrior and I would play paladin, and we could wreck the other side, just tear them up. I mean, he would carry a pole, he'd wear chainmail, I'd carry a sword and shield, and with my chainmail, and we were a force. It was great. We could really have a lot of fun pushing the magic users around because they'd run.
Fantastic. All right. Well, those are the bare necessities. Those are the questions that we've asked every week on King of Kodak. Been a pleasure to get those answers. But now the questions that the viewers have created, we call these the general questions. Kron would like to know, Sir Glenelg has a toaster and a soda maker that he is due. What say you?
Okay, you broke up a little bit. I have to choose between a toaster and a soda maker.
No. Sir Glenelg is due a toaster. He would also like a soda maker. What would you say?
I would say get the man a soda maker.
There it is. Fantastic. Stillhat would like to know, what are your thoughts on bears?
I want to pet them, but I shouldn't. And I actually have a good bear story from Sleepy Grass.
Okay.
The gathering of the clans used to be at Sleepy Grass, and it never failed. There would be bears coming down. The Corsairs would scare all the bears down into Lion Camp, and the bears would all come and try and steal our coolers because you don't steal coolers from Corsairs. And but lions apparently are a lot less scary than Corsairs. But yeah, so we were always ending up like with you'd have a trail of hot dogs going off into the woods, and your cooler would be tipped over, and because we didn't have, that was the strangest thing for me when I went to the gathering in, I think, 2017 or 16. I was like, we feed people. There's cabins, and there's a light on the ditch field at night. What? It still boggles my mind. It's just, I'm like, it still boggles my mind that we feed people. I'm like, because you'd go to an event and whatever you ate is whatever you brought. Mm-hmm. And your cooler was always a competition between how many legal alcoholic beverages you could bring, because I was over 21, and how much food you could bring. So it was always like a balancing act. How much beer am I going to bring versus how much food am I going to bring? So sometimes you had to drink your dinner. But
yeah. Okay. The extension to that question, the extension to the question is who's your favorite bear?
What you are, Kodiak?
Oh, that's the first person that's ever said that. Oh. It happened, Stillhat. It happened. Stillhat also has a question about the mobile Dragonspine pool / jacuzzi. Are you in favor of such a thing?
Well, only if I'm invited, because I'm so old now that every time I fight, I throw my back out. So I think I need a jacuzzi.
Okay. Well, obviously you're invited. That's without saying.
Ready then.
Would you be okay with bears being in the jacuzzi or pool?
It would get a little furry, but yeah, as long as the bears are friendly and they don't eat anybody, everyone should have a place in the pool.
I think this is the first time in Kingdom of Kodiak's history that I've been invited into the pool, and I'm also someone's favorite bear. I'm very happy today. All right. So to get to your questions overall, there was always a breakdown of categories. But you, the time traveler from 2001, got your categories broken down into the past, the present, and the future. So let's talk with the past first.
Yep.
What were you like as an Amtgard noob?
Spastic. I was all over the place. Like right now I'm at about 200 pounds. When I first started Amtgard, I was like 140 pounds. I was like that big around, but I was really athletic. So I was running around, just running. And, but personality wise, I just wanted to be people's friend, but I had a lot of awkward going on. So I made a lot of missteps. I said things to people that I didn't think were insensitive, but in their context, they turned out to be insensitive. So early on, I offended a lot of people. I hurt a lot of feelings, but I also made a lot of friends. And it was, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. I've gone back and I've apologized to a lot of people that I hurt in the past, but I've also it's I hear stories about me all the time, and I'm like, you know, is that really how I was seen? Both good and negative, both positive and negative. So I guess the better question would be, what did my friends think? But it's but yeah, I was very stick jockey. I was very all I wanted to do was ditch, fighter practice, fighter practice, fighter practice. But we would have like 4 or 5 battle games a Saturday easily. And so I always wanted to track down all the magic users and kill every one of them at least once. I had to get every one of them at least once. But because we had only a certain there were ratios. You could only have a certain number of spellcasters per fighting class on the field. So tracking them down and killing them actually was a good strategy, because then you eliminated them and then you could clean up the rest of it. But anyway, so yeah, I was just a flurb. I was running around like an idiot, being mean to people I didn't mean to be mean to, and being nice to people that I guess I didn't mean to be nice to. I don't know, just nerdy, awkward. Aren't we all?
Yeah. Yes, of course we are. Sir Manthax would like to know if you could tell us a story of a young Sir Randall before he was Sir Randall.
Okay, yeah. Randall is actually back in the day. He was best friends with Sir Foshin, and Sir Foshin was my roommate for a long time. We were really good friends, but they had this little company called Pale Horse, and they were all these like 16 to 20-year-old flirby kids, and they walk around chanting power to the people, and it was great. Sir Randall's mundane brother, Sir Trent, was my squire brother, and so I knew Randall, and I knew Ben because Ben was Foch and Jeremiah's best friend. So I knew him outside of Amtgard. I knew him inside of Amtgard. And he is now what he was then, only he's just an adult now and a lot more responsible and a little more serious, but not really. Not really.
No.
But yeah, but yeah, he was Randall. He was power to the people, and he was this kid that played Bard all the time. And we were like, who's gonna kill the Bard? Someone go kill that Bard before he breaks out the song again. And that was Randall.
Okay. So we're skipping a little bit into the future, but not quite current day. Can you tell everyone about your vigil?
Yeah, that was Elspeth's question, I believe. Yeah, or Sarah Elspeth. As far as I know, I had close to or the first Amtgard Knighting Vigil. I was a Boy Scout, and we have this. There's a thing called the Order of the Arrow, which is a Masonic thing, and you go out at night. They set you out. You start a fire, and you keep the fire going all night, and that also expanded into what the SCA does, which is roughly the same thing. Only what happens then is knights come and they talk to you, and they tell you what they believe knighthood is all about, and they tell you and a lot of them tell you what is expected of you as a knight. And so Sir Tararin was my knight, and he knew that I, having a Templar persona, that I was going to want a vigil. I was going to want to stay up all night. We did. First off, we started with the Templar ritual cleansing, where you put on a white robe and they pour water over your head, and it was kind of cold up there. So this was at GOTC in '97. So we were just down from where Dragonspine camped, out in the middle of the woods. Just out in the middle of the woods, there was a little clearing, so we made a fire, and I had the most amazing people. I had Sir Wolfram, Sir Aromax, Sir Ivar. I had Sir Mithras, Sir Bolt. Sir Talinor, all these old school Burning Lands people and Iron Mountains people, Sir Guy, um, you know, it was, you pick a famous, or, an influential knight of antiquity, and they were there. And they all came in and they gave me booze, which was cool. And they talked to me about what to expect. A lot of it went to the fact that I was not a warlord, and I'm not a warlord, and I was getting Knight of the Sword, and they the Sword Knights talked to me about what was going to be expected of me as an Amtgard Sword Knight, and what it roughed out to be was that I was going to be forced to train people and to make sure that the fighting level of my kingdom did not diminish in any way. I was going to be expected to mentor and forge the fighting spirit of the future of Dragonspine, and I did that for pretty much 4 years before I had to take a hiatus. But yeah, so my vigil, I sat there a little chilly and made a big fire and had these amazing people, the most amazing people I've probably ever known in my life, come and impart the most amazing wisdom upon me. And and I'm not denigrating other people's vigils that aren't like this, because their vigil should be what they want. It always should be what the knight wants. Not, I wouldn't want to force anything on somebody, but for me, for my persona, for what I wanted, I was up literally until dawn broke, and I had nights streaming in all night long. I mean, the 4 o'clock in the morning to 6 o'clock in the morning kind of thing was a little light, but Tararin stayed with me the entire time, and his mundane wife at the time stayed with me, and it added a weight to it. It was solemn, and it added a weight to what I was going to be, not what I'd achieved, because we didn't actually emphasize that. It wasn't what you achieved, it was what was expected of you. What kind of an example you were going to provide. Because the knights really, I mean, they didn't want me to shame them by being there was enough problems with certain problematic knights at the time. Even, it's nothing new, but they wanted me to make sure that I provided a good example of knighthood for Amtgard as a whole. And that was a big deal for especially like Sir Ivar and Sir Tararin and those guys. They wanted me to make sure that I knew that I was going to have a giant spotlight on me, and the white belt doesn't necessarily provide privilege; it provides responsibility. And it's kind of the Spider-Man thing: with great power comes great responsibility. So that was in a nutshell what my vigil was all about.
So you're knighted, and Damon Bully would like to know how it felt to be one of the first knights of Dragonspine.
I was within the first 20 or so, and I was the third sword knight. Sir Stefan and Sir Jatara got the sword belt before I did. We didn't really think of it like that at the time, because we hadn't had kingdom status that long. I think we had kingdom status 3 years. I think we got it in 94.
I think
I could be wrong.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah. We hadn't been a kingdom that long. A lot of our knights had been knighted by Burning Lands. Quicksilver was knighted by Burning Lands. Sir Gil was knighted by Burning Lands. But so it was, again, I just felt privileged. I was just super happy. I wasn't very happy. I qualified for Knight of the Flame by the old scale. I had 12 Griffins and 1 Lion. So I could have been a Master Lion, because Griffins counted towards Master Lion back then.
Mhm.
And but Sir Phocion, who was the king at the time, who knighted me, he said that he wanted to change the way people perceived sword knights, because sword knights were perceived as, ugh, me hit thing with stick, and it wasn't it wasn't, and that's, and I'm not saying that to be mean to anybody. I mean, a lot of, like Sir Medeth was the first awarded sword knight. And Sir Medeth was never a me hit with stick. The guy's smarter than just about anybody I know. But that was the perception of it. And what they wanted was, Phocion wanted somebody to go off into the future and to provide an example of what we thought a sword knight should be. And like I said, I wanted to be a flame knight because service always meant way more to me than some prowess on the battlefield. That was my hobby. Service was the game. If that makes sense. I mean, because I was champion and I was always running fighter practice. All I wanted was to serve. That's what I wanted to do. But Phocion told me, he's like, well, I'm not giving you a flame belt. I'm giving you a sword belt, and you're just gonna have to like it.
Right.
So, but, and what's funny now is everyone's like, well, you got a sword belt. I'm like, well, yeah. And they're like, wow, that's so rare. I'm like, okay. Because it wasn't that rare. In 1997, when I got knighted, it wasn't that rare. There were a lot of sword knights. There was a lot of them. Iron Mountains probably had 10 easy, 10 active sword knights. Burning Lands had at least 10 active sword knights. Emerald Hills had probably 20. And all these guys, were complete, just destroy you on the field guys. Like Sir Aromax, just hit you before you even saw him throw the blow. So, I didn't consider myself to be on their level, but I had been champion twice. I won a weapon master tournament. So I was a defender, a weapon master, and and I'd won 2 tournaments. So I won 2 champions tournaments and a weapon master tournament. So I guess back in the old days, I would have been qualified for Warlord until they pulled the champion or the defender part out of it, which I don't understand. Why would they do that? Why would they pull the only service element out of the Knight of the Sword? Why would they do that? I would like to go back to the COM and go, guys, you made it a straight tournament belt. How does that make any sense at all? You ripped the one service element out of it. And when it happened, I was playing. I was regent of the Burning Lands, and I was like, I had that big look. I was like, what? That makes no sense. But I wasn't king then, and I probably would have been voted down. But but yeah. So anyway,
Okay.
long answer to a short question. Sorry.
No, that's fine. Lord Tajima would like to talk about the break you and I talked about just before we came on. You did take a break away from Amcard, and how that affected your views coming back.
Sure. Well, the story was, I was a Las Cruces police officer, and I just couldn't do it anymore. There was a number of reasons. I had a brand new bouncing baby girl. My wife is Duchess Cat from the Burning Lands. She was, queen of the Burning Lands a bunch of times. She created the Kingdom of the Wetlands. She was queen when the Wetlands was created. But, so there was just so many things happening. So I had to quit. And I played in the SCA for a couple of years, and I didn't like that either. So I just up and quit. Now I would always go to the Ren Fair, because I was usually working it, and I'd go bug Randall and go bug Azrael, but so I kind of saw, what was going on. I saw, Anatole with his shield with the finger on it. I'd seen all that, so I was still kind of plugged in, but not really. So I was kind of on the outside, kind of looking in. And then in 2018, Surahira, I had recently retired from the police department in Las Cruces in 2017, and I had a lot of free time. And Surahira he messages me on Facebook and says, "Hey, do you think Kat, my wife, do you think Kat would be the regent of the Burning Lands?" I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Well, I don't have a regent. No one ran for regent. I need someone that knows what they're doing, and I think Kat would do a great job. She's a serpent knight, or a knight of the serpent." So I asked her, and she was like, "I don't know." And I said, "Well, dude, if she doesn't want to do it, I'll do it for you. I mean, I've been looking for something to do." And he's like, "Kind of need a champion too." So I was like, "What?" He's like, "No one wants to run." I was like, "Oh crap. Okay." So I stepped in. I hadn't been in Amcard in 17 years, and hooray, I'm champion of the Burning Lands. and, and my wife's regent of the Burning Lands. And now Surahira and I, we've known each other forever, and Kat had known her forever. So, we stepped in, and it was shocking. It was shocking. For one thing, the numbers in Amcard wide are way down from what they used to be. Like I was telling you before, we would have between 60 and 100 people at Dragonspine on a weekend, on a Saturday, and people would start showing up at 9 o'clock in the morning, and we weren't done till dark. And I mean, it was an all-day thing every Saturday, and we would fill the VFW hall up on 70. We would fill the whole VFW hall. So that's one of the biggest differences, is the fact that just our local area is declined in numbers so much. But also the biggest shock to me is I think we had 6 kingdoms when I left, and now we've got 22 now.
22, yeah.
And because we were there for the con, and I'm like, we have Amcard in New York. What? Now we have Amcard in Canada. What? It's because I mean the wetlands was like a shock, because that was like all the way almost to Florida, and we were like, oh my god, because we were like, what? Because I mean the wetlands basically was Florida too, because wetlands was really big. Now it's kind of compressed because Neverwinter took the top part, and all that, but it's so that's been a difference. Weapon tech and the way people fight is completely different. We used shaped swords, and I still have a sword from 1993, or no, 1996, that Sir Bertrand made for me, and another Dragonspine Knight. But so the fighting is completely different. It's very sloppy. It's a lot of backhanded stuff that you can't do with a flat sword. So and I say sloppy because it is, but it's also different. And I'm going to have to learn how to do it if I'm going to fight well. Manthax has been trying to teach me that whole sloppy back shot thing. And I still keep trying to turn my wrist to get so I don't flat somebody. But so yeah, that's a big difference. The garb standards have both gone up and down. We didn't, like there's a ton of applique on everything now. It didn't used to be that way. The applique wasn't as such a big deal, but also modern fandom themes were not such a big deal. I mean, you would not have seen a Pokemon tunic, 26 years or 23 years ago. You wouldn't have seen that. It's not that, it's not that we couldn't have done it, because anybody could really do anything they wanted to, but I don't think it occurred to anybody, because we were emulating, John Carter of Mars. We were emulating, Elric of Melniboné, Conan. We weren't emulating Pikachu. We kept it really swords and sorcery and historical. It was, we were running around with our tennis shoes on and our baseball caps, but, we were still, and I don't say that to denigrate anybody. I mean, it was just something that we didn't do because, well, Pikachu didn't exist when I first started, but it's, so that is actually very jarring to see such modern stuff. I'm like, what? it it's taking me a while to get used to it.
Sure.
It's very strange.
Zana asked in the
But
chat what rule set you came in, what rule set you came back to, and that would have been V8, correct?
Yeah, V8. I left in V6 and I came back in V8. Apparently V7 was awful, but you know,
I don't know. I've only ever played under V8, so yeah. All right, so
well, you know,
go ahead.
no, I'm good. Just lean forward so I can hear you.
Awesome. So that's the past. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the present. Lord Chijima wants to know what you've been doing to keep busy AmpGuard wise during COVID.
Well, I've been making belts, a lot of belts. I made a Squire's belt for Sir Randall, and that was something new for me. I'd never finished the edges on a on a vegetable tan leather before. I put nickel silver tips on it and sent it off. He didn't want any decoration on it. So I've been making belts, a lot of white Latigo Knights belts for people in other kingdoms. I made a couple of belts or 3 belts for Emerald Hills Knights. And that's another thing that's totally weird to me is these macrame belts. What? They all they are sticker magnets. I don't know how it's just so weird to me. I'm like, anyway, but because we didn't have macrame belts back then, everything was leather. But anyway, what else have I been doing? Well, I've been trying to keep my kingdom together as best I can. I'm not very good with the online stuff, so my kingdom GM or my kingdom PM Cassio has been just knocking it out of the park, just killing it. And Phoebe, my kingdom regent up in Crimson Basin, she's been hitting it to the other side, from the other side of the plate, just nailing it. Right. They've really been keeping my people a lot more engaged than I can do. I've been trying, like I said, this internet stuff is really difficult for me because it's depressing to me. I'm an extrovert. I need my people. And doing all this online stuff feels hollow. And for me, it just feels hollow. And I'm like, I don't want to be doing this. I want to be having the Burning Lands gathering in July and, having a cool mid-range somewhere and seeing my people and having fun. Not whatever we're doing now.
Yeah.
It sucks a lot. And I'm actually worried. I'm worried that we're going to lose people. I'm worried that people are going to find other hobbies that they like more. And that's why I'm so glad and so happy that I've got my Kingdom PM and my Kingdom Regent and my Kingdom Champion. Atanas actually had a battle game competition that was fantastic. And they've been doing all the heavy lifting for me. I mean, we've been doing our comm stuff, you and I, the checking Zulip, dealing with that sort of thing. I field, I don't know how you are, but I still do about 45 minutes of kingdom work a day, answering questions on Facebook or, doing interviews with this really weird guy from Dragon's Bone. And, and so, I'm staying engaged. I'm trying to learn how to, I'm teaching myself how to paint scrolls, because I can't fight like I used to. So God, I better learn something. Sure. But so I've been, making the belts. I've been doing that. I just repaired a belt for Sir Medeth. So I'm trying to stay, engaged. I'm riding my motorcycle a lot, just to keep me from going insane. I'm working a lot. I was essential, so I've been out and about. I've been rolling into work every day since this whole thing started. Right. So but again, I have been trying to engage more with the Facebook side of it, looking at what other kingdoms are doing, looking at how other kings are dealing with things and how they talk to people, and our 11-hour comm meeting almost killed me.
Yeah.
But I think my butt's still sore. I really do. I think my butt is still sore. But God, dude, seriously, was that the most awful thing that you've ever been subjected to in your life? Because it's like in top 10 for me, and I've been shot
Hey,
at. So
I also shot at.
it's awful.
Yeah, it was grueling to say the least. I don't want to get too far into it because I respect everyone's decisions to want to talk, but we could have.
No, I'm not casting aspersions. I'm just making a straight up judgment that it sucked
Yeah, that's fair.
so long.
All right. Cassie would like to know, do you think that cross gaming was helpful for you as amp guarder?
Sure, yeah. I think every amp guarder, seriously, I think every amp guarder should go to a large SCA event. Like the Australia Mountain War in Phoenix, or Grand Outlandish up near Albuquerque. Go to Penzic in Pennsylvania if you want to like go to an event that has 30,000 people at it for 2 weeks. I mean, hello, I've never been to Penzic, but I've seen pictures, believe me.
Mhm.
But I went to Grand Outlandish, I went to Grand Outlandish, but when I went to Australia Mountain War, I was actually in a melee that had like 400 people on a side. So we had like 800 people in full armor trying to murder each other. And you can't describe it. So I think that AmGuard people would benefit from that, because one thing that they would do is they would go over and they would see, like my brother's is an SCA knight. He's been an SCA knight for, gosh, like 25 years.
Mhm.
And, his garb standard is period Viking garb standard. He does not wear a single stitch of clothing that an 11th century Viking wouldn't wear. And the underwear is interesting, but I think that seeing what those people have come up with, like Surahira is he's also an SCA knight, and like you've seen the crowns that he's made. That's a level of craftsmanship that I hadn't seen in AmpGuard before, that we brought to the from the SCA. So now the SCA's got just as many problems, and I don't care for it as much as I care for AmpGuard, but there's elements of it that would really help people out. You guys do it in Dragonspine, where you call people like Your Royal Majesty, and you guys really take a very you're very careful about that, and you if the guy's the king of Rising Winds, then he's a Royal Majesty. I think the AmpGuard has lost part of that, and I think if you went to an SCA event and saw how the Kingdom Court was treated, and how court was executed, and how court was done, like you just had Sir Bex on, right?
Mhm.
Okay, if anyone saw her knighting at GOTC, but the summer before, that was really close to an SCA knighting. It was because Surahira did it, and that was super close to an SCA knighting. For some people, they're not gonna like that, but for some people out there, seeing that and going to an SCA event, they can steal all the really cool ideas and bring them back, and leave all the crappy ideas and steal all the good ones. So yeah, cross gaming, do it. I want to go to a Belgarath. I want to go to a Belgarath event. I want to go to a Dagger here event. I want to go to a Dystopia Rising event and wear a tin can on my head. I mean,
Cassie also wanted to ask about your favorite period of history or historical period.
oh yeah, that's easy. The period of 1090 till about 1315. That's the period of time that the Kingdom of Jerusalem actually existed. My favorite movie is Ridley Scott's Kingdom of Heaven. It's the period of time. It's the period that's always grabbed me the hardest, and it's it I don't know why. it's one of those things that I can't put my finger on, but that's the period of time that I've studied the most. I'm also a really big Roman history nut. So pre-imperial Rome would be, if I had to do it all over again, I would be, I'd be, Cassius Longinus, imperial legionary, I mean, I could, or something like that, because that garb would be cool. Yeah, it'd be just awesome.
Yeah. So a question came up in the chat that ties into the very next question that came up. Adeo wants to, or Zana, sorry, would like to know about maybe getting a belt from you, purchasing belts. Are you a merchant in that sense?
No, I'll make a belt for anybody. It's, I mean, within reason, of course, but yeah, making a belt for somebody is to me an honor. Like I said, I've made 6 or 7 knights belts. And just seeing someone, well, like when I knighted Verona, Duchess Verona, I put the belt that I made around her waist.
Mhm.
And and then and watching her smile when she saw it, and sending that belt off to Randall. If I'm making something for somebody to sell, I wouldn't even know how to price it. So the most I would ever do is ask somebody like, hey, buy the leather and send it to me.
Mhm.
That kind of thing. Buy the leather and send it to me. And I would give them some specifications, because leather, the leather has to be a certain thickness, that kind of thing, for it to work as a belt. You can't have a 3 to 4 ounce leather and want a decent belt out of it. It's going to have to be like between like 6 and 9 ounces to make it a nice weighty belt. But that's actually that you can work with, because when it's smaller, it'll fold. But anyway, but no, I would. It's see, I know Adeo, but I didn't know what her persona name was. It's Zana.
Zana, yes.
Zana. Okay. Just have her PM me.
There it is. Well, that actually ties into the question that was asked for you, and it was by Lady Stillhat. How do you make such beautiful belts? Lord Tajima's belt, I believe, is the one that you gave to Sir Randall, is
Okay.
quoted first by Sir Randall as
Well, okay. YouTube, straight up. Also, the one great thing about being retired and having another job is that I have access to the best materials and the best equipment, because I'll just buy it if I want it. So like Tajima's belt, that is nickel silver, and it is it's an 8 ounce leather, so it's got some weight to it, and so you use good quality leather dye, and it's the one thing I won't do, because I've done it, is I will not paint a belt. Like a white belt, I will use I'll use chemically treated Latigo chromium, chromium treated colors. I'll do that for white, but I will never. I painted a white belt and it looks great, but I'll never do it again. It was the most awful experience I've ever had with leatherworking. It just was so awful, because the paint is just awful. If you've seen some knights, their belt looks like it's, seen better days, it's because it's a painted belt. So you use the best materials, you use patience, and you never be afraid to toss it out there. Just to just take a big old risk. And like the belt that I made for Tajima, or for Randall rather, who gave it to Tajima. I screwed up the first strap I had. It was finished, it was dyed, it was beautiful, and while it was wet, I folded it, which caused a wrinkle in the belt itself. So the belt wasn't smooth. It had this big like ripple on it. So I was like, oh, start it over. So you got to be willing to walk away from something if it starts to suck, because you'll just get more frustrated trying to fix it. So just walk away from it. If it's frustrating you and it sucks, walk away from it. And but also risk, 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 risk. Throw it out there. If you've got something in your head, you can do it. You can do it. It's nothing. I mean, I'm not artistically talented. I'm a technician. It's there's a difference between a technician and an artist. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I mean, I agree with you that there's a difference. I would also be contrarian and say that there are obviously similarities, and there in a Venn diagram there's definitely crossover. So
yeah, and that's totally, it's, you got to have a vision. You have to be able to see what you're going to do. I mean, like Tajima's belt, I was actually, when Randall asked for a very simple belt, I was like, aw, darn it. I was like, man, I got these cool rune stamps and I could do this cool. And he's like, no stamps, red belt, ox blood. Okay. Gosh, Randall.
Right. Speaking of Tajima, he asked the next question. What is one thing you wish you could change about current Amtgard?
Oh, well, this is delicate. I don't know what people were thinking when they created the awards ladder, the award standardization thing, but no one was supposed to wait. It wasn't supposed to take 10 years to get knighted. It wasn't supposed to take 20 years to get knighted. It wasn't supposed to take 6 years to get knighted. We had, in the Dragonspine Knight Circle, we pretty much knew whether someone was going to get a belt 3 to 4 years in, because they demonstrated, the ability, leadership ability. They demonstrated some sort of a talent in one of the 4 areas. They were active in the park. They would, mentor new players. They were welcoming. They were an ambassador for your kingdom. That's what we used to always talk about. Is this person an ambassador for your kingdom? Would you send this person to Emerald Hills by themselves and worry that they were going to embarrass you? Okay. And those are the questions that we asked. We didn't focus so much on, can this person garb an entire royal court, to this extremely high level. Like my wife, Dame Kat, she had 42 Orders of the Dragon before she got her serpent belt. That means she had 42 items that were worthy of a dragon, but there wasn't this escalation. You know what I'm saying? You didn't have to continually top yourself, because what if you come into Amtgard and you're already an artisan?
Right.
I've somehow got to get 10 times better.
Right.
How is that supposed to work? Like, I've got it, like in my kingdom, I've got an amazing commercial artist. He's been doing it for 1 billion years. Lord Constantine, he is amazing. I can't expect him to suddenly get 10 times better. I don't even know what 10 times better from him would even look like. So I think it's a lot more subjective now. And I think that we need to look at the damage that it's doing. Because a lot of people, I hear people say, well, he got knighted and then he quit. Well, duh, it took him 12 years to get knighted. What did you expect? He's burned out.
Right.
And so that to me, that is the one thing that we need to fix more than anything else, is that we need to start recognizing excellence in people way earlier than we're doing. Do we have, is there a shortage of white?
No.
I mean, people are like, well, we don't want to have too many knights. And my answer is, why not? What's wrong with rewarding excellence and recognizing excellence? to my frame of reasoning, we want everybody in our kingdom to be a knight. Why wouldn't you? I mean, what kind of attitude is that? That like, what, I got mine, so you can't have yours? Why would we do that to somebody? That makes no sense to me whatsoever. I just don't. So that's the one thing that I would fix more than anything else, because it creates what it does. It also creates an artificial environment where now the knight has to be super perfect. They're not going to be. They're not going to be. The guy that's working towards knighthood has been working towards it for 8 years. He's going to look at that person and go, oh, well, he did this and we should pull his belt. Right. Because he's like, well, it creates people that are disgruntled. It creates people that are bitter. It wasn't like that. It really wasn't as much like that. I mean, there was people that were bitter. But a lot of those people, they weren't going to get knighted anyway, because they weren't a leader. They weren't honorable. They weren't an ambassador. They were, they weren't, and that's not to say that that's a bad thing. Masterhood is there for a reason. And if you're the best painter in the entire universe, but you don't have the ability to lead your group and teach other people how to do things. You don't even have to teach them how to paint, but you've got to lead them into what they're going to do best. Then if you don't have those abilities, then you shouldn't be a knight. That sounds awful, because it sounds like I'm gatekeeping, but I'm not really gatekeeping at all, because if you're not a leader now, you can learn how to be a leader. You can learn, and that's what knights should be teaching people. This guy is a really great artist, and he should really, I bet he'd be a cool knight. Why don't I run an event with him and get him to run an event with me, and we'll see. He might like it. He might be really good at it, and he might not be he might be a master dragon, but he may be a future Knight of the Flame. You see where that goes?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree.
And what we need to do is that we need to have less emphasis on what someone did and more emphasis on why are they doing it, and how can we help them grow? How can we help them be better? Not saying that they're bad, but how do we make that person who's a great artist into a Knight of the Flame? How do we make that person who's a really great fighter into a Knight of the Crown? You should never be, you could be a master in 10 different things, but the one knighthood that you deserve the most, the one that you exemplify the most, could be something that's not even your greatest talent.
That makes a lot of sense.
And I think we need to get away from it. We need to just get away from being judgy. And it's if someone's a genuine danger to themselves or others, we have a mechanism to get rid of them. But some people just aren't going to be a knight the way they are now. So it's our job, my job as a king and a knight, to look at that person and go, I'm going to drag him along. I'm going to grab him by the ear, and we're going to make something out of this person. We're going to say, come over here and fight with me. I'm going to teach you how to fight pole or whatever, but we need people to do that. We need people to stop worrying about what the awards that other people have, and start worrying about how to grow themselves, how to become that master dragon, even though they may never be a knight. But be that master dragon, be that master rose. And I think that, being a master is something that should be admired more, because those are your true technicians. Those are your true artists. Those are your people that are just amazing. Like me, I was not the best fighter on the field. I wasn't, but I was the one running fighter practice. I was the one grabbing new people and going, here's my shield. hold it up, tuck it over your shoulder so I can't hit you. And I was training people because it's kind of selfish. I wanted good people to fight with. So, um, but we wanted people to come out, and that was what I did. And that's why Foshin was really, he's like, you're the most honorable person on the field and you're a good fighter. So we need Knights of the Sword like you.
Okay.
So that's something that we like I was like, when they pulled the leadership requirement out of the Knight of the Sword, that still perplexed me. I still don't know what they were doing. I don't know what they were thinking. But we need to figure out, and like with the new Knight of the Sword thing, the battle game thing, I was a battle game Knight of the Sword, straight up. I was much better fighter in battle games than I ever was in tournaments. And so when people say, hey, yeah, we need to have a battle game route to Knight of the Sword, I'm like, that already exists. We just need to change our mindset. We need to change the way we're thinking about stuff. And we need to fix the tournament centric bend that Knight of the Sword now has.
Makes sense. It really does.
And,
Short intermission here, not for people to leave, but just to give you a shout out about how awesome your garb is and how awesome your belts are. It wasn't a question, but I wanted to make sure that got in here. Kara wanted to make sure that you got that. So your shout out has been had.
Well, and again, that's the SCA influence. The boots that I wear come from an SCA night up in Albuquerque. Most of the rest of my garb is either bought from SCA vendors or it's made by my amazing wife. It's she makes the most amazing stuff. So it's great because I have a Master Garber, Master Dragon, and Master Owl that I live with. Oh, and she's also a Master Crown.
Yeah.
Oh, and a Master Rose. Yeah. So I between me and my wife, we're a 4-belted knight.
Wow.
I've got one. Yeah, just one. She's got the rest of them.
Right. Well, I mean, sometimes that's how it is. Back to the questions though. Sir Manthex would like to know, what do you miss about older Amp Guard? And could you incorporate it into newer Amp Guard?
Okay, well, older Amp Guard was all Gen X people. Millennials, y'all are different. It's a little disconcerting. You guys don't, it's what I would bring back is I would bring back the sense of fun and the love of your fellow nerd. And by love, I don't mean the physical sense. I mean the love of your fellow nerd. It's there's so many people out there that are just ready to toss somebody under the bus for being awkward, saying something that they shouldn't have said necessarily, but they apologize and they still get hammered. I would just like to bring back the love of our fellow nerd, and because we were all just big fat nerds who wanted to hit each other with big couch foam swords, and so I would bring that in. I would also bring in more elements from B6, like having battle games that had an end. When one team ran out of lives, the battle game ended. I would bring that back. I'm never going to be able to bring back flat swords because nobody knows how to make those anymore. But I would bring back the everyone fights from a big distance now. It's all sniping from the outside. I would like to see like two guys like with their shields like right up against each other, just throwing raps, just trying to kill each other for a good 10 minutes straight, like we used to. But it's so a little bit of that element. But I would also like to bring back a little more of the element of like one of the great things about the Burning Lands Gathering back in the day was that you would go campfire hopping. Everyone had their little camp and they had a campfire. So you get a little group of people and you'd get your beverage of choice and you would go visit someone's camp, after dark, because we couldn't fight after dark because we didn't have big lights and stuff. So we actually met each other that way. We, saw each other in the most favorable light possible. and it was fun. We just, so I would bring that back. More, more fun and togetherness and less bickering and separation. Um, because like I said, we were all one big group of nerds, and I would like to see a little more of that fellowship and a little less of the separation and division.
That's fair. Yeah, agreed. Again, I agree. I do want to hit a couple of the notes that have been mentioned in the chat. Uh, would Kat ever be interested in coming on Kingdom of Kodiak?
And getting what? I'm sorry.
Coming on Kingdom of Kodiak.
Uh, my Dame Catherine,
Yeah.
or Kat. I would have to ask her. She's not as gregarious as I am. She's not as extroverted. She's over in the side saying no.
That's fine.
Yeah, she's not an extrovert like I am. You would have like a 5-minute interview of you sitting there and her going, okay. That'd be it. Yeah. So
maybe I'll have to find a special way to get some of our quieter players on like a panel where they could just give me yes, no answers or something like that. It'll probably work better. I'll work on it. But back to the questions. Morgan would like to know, what is your favorite event and why is it GOTC?
Well, actually, Morgan, my favorite event was always Harvest War. That was the Dragonspine event up, hosted by Pegasus Valley back in the day. I loved Harvest War because all the guys would come down from Iron Mountains, and all the people from here would go up to Albuquerque, and we would have a blast. All tents, no cabins, out in the middle of the woods by Albuquerque, and we would have just a blast. We had the best battle games up in the forest, just the most fantastic battle games. There's nothing like ducking behind a tree, to have an arrow like smack the tree right by your face. That's awesome. But my second favorite event, of course, my event that happens currently, is definitely, I went to Spring War, but I definitely like GOTC just because, that's where I got knighted 23 years ago. That's where Sir Guy cracked my sternum during my buffet. And, that's where I met that's where I, talked to my wife for the first time. So it's laden with so many firsts and loves, and but it's a lot more sophisticated now than it used to be. But we also used to have like 1,200 people at GOTC. At 1,000 people, all sleeping in tents with campfires everywhere. I don't know how we didn't burn the whole forest down.
Right.
But yeah, so, and Morgan, this is to you, buddy. You guys, let's get a Tucson event going. Let's get a camping event out there in Tucson.
That's
it could happen.
Yeah. Talking to Sir Glenall, he said that if there were more camping events, he would travel, and Harvest War could be something that maybe down the road could be brought back. Morgan, this is on your shoulders at this point.
Harvest War could be in Tucson.
Okay, why not?
Harvest War could be a City and Gate. They could do it. But yeah, I mean, and they could have it a winter event because it's like what, 90 degrees in December there? Come on. I mean,
that'd be fantastic.
Wouldn't it?
It would. Sir Bax would like to know, as a knight who didn't get 10 orders and a masterhood, how do you feel about the current standards for knighthood? I think we touched on it a little bit, but
we did touch. Yeah, we did touch on it. Yeah, I would. Like I said before, I think that the knighthood used to be easy to qualify for, but it was hard to get. Now it's hard to get and hard to qualify for. So we've created this giant gatekeeping that that I don't think is fair to everybody. Now I do feel I have a little imposter syndrome every now and then, because I'm not a master of anything. Oh, I'm a master monk, paragon now, but I don't have a masterhood. I wasn't going to win 21 in a row in a tournament, so I was never going to be a warlord. And there was no warlord was the only, and it wasn't even considered a masterhood back then. You had to have defender and weapon master to, or warlord. That was the only qualifications there were for Knight of the Swords. There wasn't a masterhood back then. But I do have a little imposter syndrome every now and then when I look at, what it took to become a warlord from a lot of these people. And it makes me respect them a lot more, but it also makes me have sympathy for them, because they shouldn't have had to go through what they did to get where they are. It sounds awful, but we shouldn't be punishing people to get them recognized for who they are. And that's, so I'm not saying that we need to just trash what we're doing, but I think we as monarchs need to look at how we're giving awards. And, does that level 8 really have to be that much better than his level 7 that he got 4 years ago? I mean, so as a monarch, when I look at the award system, I look at the award system from a completely different standpoint, because what I'm doing is I'm looking at it thinking, if I give this award to someone, is that award A, going to be respected by their peers? Is it B, deserved? Because it can be one and not the other. Okay. And is it fairly given? Is it fairly giving? Is it meeting the standards that are in the ROP? The ROP gives all these really lofty examples, but it says these are just examples. These are not hard, fast rules. I don't know when they became hard and fast rules, but we don't need to abide by that. We don't have to judge people based on the examples in the ROP, because the ROP actually gives us a really cool out to make our own judgments. So you consider it. Is it deserving? Are they deserving? Is it fair? And, and are they going to be, is it going to be respected? Because you don't want to give somebody an award and have everybody go, well, he's the king's friend, so of course he's going to get that.
Right.
So, and also, so you have to look at what, at all of those levels. But I think that, that the level that we've had it, because in the old days, what would happen was you had 10 roses, they would give you your master rose and knight you right then. You didn't walk around as a master rose. That just didn't happen very often. I mean, you just didn't walk around as a master rose. Or a master dragon. You just didn't walk around like that. 9 times out of 10, you got your masterhood. Bam, they dropped a belt on you. Like my wife, she had 42 dragons before she got her master dragon. That's the most dragons that anybody ever had, ever. And so it's, I think that we need to, again, going back to our love of our fellow nerd, I think we need to look at that. And just because I'm not qualified now, to getting back to Bex's question, we're kind of, it doesn't mean that I'm going to drop my belt, because I qualified for it when it was awarded to me, and I'm still a Knight of Amtgard. However, it does spur me on. It spurs me on to get a masterhood. That's why I'm working on my art so hard. Not necessarily to get a masterhood, but to be good at something, so that I'd be deserving of a masterhood sometime in the future. And being monarch, I guess, crown points as they are, it's still not sure I'm still not sure that's the perfect way to do it. I know dropping a belt on someone just because they were king once wasn't really tenable, but so I'm not sure how that works. But for me personally, um, being a masterhoodless knight just makes me respect the people around me a lot more. Like Annabelle Lee. How many events has she ran? Come on. Like Sir Randall when I was there when he got his serpent belt. I mean, how many stone plinths did he make? I mean, and you've seen them.
Yep.
They're freaking amazing.
Yeah.
And he was a master dragon for like 3 years before he got his belt. So, it makes me look at that and appreciate the people that are around me, because it's all about my love of my fellow nerd too. But it's so it drives me, and it also humbles me and makes me respect them even more. Like Sir Bex herself, I mean, how many GOTCs was she planning on running? I mean, good gracious. I mean, because when you do that, when you run GOTC, you don't get to have any fun.
Right.
So
Lord Tajima wants to ask about the change to the Crown Knight system we currently have, moving away from crown points to doing it as a ladder award. How do you feel about that?
Well, and it's problematic. Say you start off and you're monarch of the kingdom. Well, okay, so I got one order of the crown. Okay, what do I got to be like God Emperor to get a 10th level? So having it be a stacking ladder system, I don't think it's tenable. I don't think it'll work unless it's like you're king 5 times to get a level 10. But the way the award system works is you're king, so you get 1 level, 1. You're king again, you get another 1. Well, you weren't king, you had to be king twice to get the 2nd level. It's because you have to continually best what you did before. It's, so if you're going to do that, you'd want to start off, I'm going to be the GM of Reeves for my local shire, get my 1, and then I'll be the Kingdom GM of Reeves and get my 2. So it makes people game the system instead of just doing what they're going to do. Does that make sense?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. So I don't think a ladder system would work for that. What I think we need to do is, I don't even know what it looks like. I don't know what a fix to that system looks like. I was never really enamored with the Knight of the Crown to begin with. I always thought that you should go lion route and give out flame belts for people that are doing that level of service. Does that make sense?
I can understand that. Yeah.
But I'm also one of the guys where I always felt that you should only ever be knighted once. And because then people aren't measuring themselves against others. Well, I'm a knight. Well, I'm a 3-belted knight. I'm a 2-belted knight. Knights should just be knights. There shouldn't be any kind of funky hierarchy amongst knights. There should just be knights.
Sure.
I mean, so that I know I'm a revolutionary.
No, it's good. I think Iron Mountains put out a transition from points to giving out awards with the idea that starting off, everyone's going to be getting bulk numbers. You're not just going to get a 1 or a 2. But yeah, it does bring into question, like, if you have a low number of crowns and you become a monarch, there's a chance that you're going to finish being the highest position in your kingdom and not being a master or have 10 orders or anywhere near it. So I do see the flaw in it.
And that's a definite problem. Like I actually had to give for Thorn Mountain and for Crimson Basin, I had to step in and do the crown points myself. I actually had to reach out to the Queen of Westmarch, Sir Elspeth, and I said, Elspeth, you got to help me. We didn't do this in 2001. I don't know what I'm doing. And, so she actually sent me Westmarch's criteria for it. And I used it as a guide because I had no earthly idea what I was going to do with it. And I knew right then and there that it was inherently flawed. So I tried my best to give as many crown points as I thought was fair. Because the crown point system was created so that you could be the sheriff of a shire and get a crown belt out of, I mean, you see what I'm saying? It was created so that you didn't have to be, kingdom monarch to get a crown belt. That you could consistently do good service in office in your local group, in your barony, in your shire, in your duchy, or whatever, and you could get to the point where you were going to get a crown belt. And especially in kingdoms like mine where we don't have a floating crown yet, that's super important, I think. So we need to somehow capture that, but we need to figure out a way that is less focused on besting your last achievement.
Yeah, that makes sense. Jubei, someone you may know personally, why do you only have one squire, and why are they the best?
Jubei, love you. Well, I only have one squire because and again, I'm not casting aspersions on anybody. I'm not trying to like my knight Tararin had two squires. Me and Sir Trent were both his squires, and we both required two different things. So it was really, Tararin wasn't really split because he would do some stuff with Trent and he'd do different stuff with me. But I think unless you've got like Jubei's not a squire that I need to train or that I need to teach him to do anything. The guy's been in Amtgard longer than I have, and he's done way more than I have. So the reason why I am Jubei's knight is because I'm going to advocate for him. I'm going to be his rooting section. I'm going to have him, I'm going to get him to the highest level of his awesomeness. Like I gave him his Master Rose, and I had to think about it really hard because that's not something that's the kind of thing that was very much looked down upon. You didn't knight your own squire. But when I looked at his records and I looked back at what he had done, and then I looked at the job that he had done at Springmore, basically running their entire security, I said, I can't make this poor guy wait another year. I have to do something now. And no one even blinked because they knew that he deserved it. So again, fair, respected, deserving. He met all three requirements, so I gave it to him. But yeah, I think that some knights can handle 10 squires and 3 pages and 5 or 6 men at arms or people at arms.
Yeah.
They can do that. I can't. I've got way too much going on. When Jubei gets tired of me, I will take another squire. But the next squire I will pick someone newer, someone that can actually, that I can actually really help instead of just cheerlead for. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's cool. Let me know when you're doing that so we can get that announced that you're looking for a youthful Amtgard.
See, that would never happen. The only way that I would squire somebody is if they were already my friend.
Sure.
I would already have to know who they were and what they, and who they were. And the biggest problem now with getting squires is these belt lines are huge.
Yeah.
I'm like, in the old days, we didn't really have men at arms. They were pages and they were little kids. So like the heir apparent, the heir apparent of Dragonspine was one of my pages. Like, I think he was the first heir apparent, but, so I've seen people, I'm like, man, that person would make a great squire. And I look and I'm like, there's somebody's man at arms already. I'm not going to snipe somebody. That's rude. I mean, it just, why would I do that? I'm like, hey, I'll give you a red belt if you come on over here and ditch that bum that only gave you a black belt, so that is something that I hadn't thought of that's changed really crazy. This whole belt line thing, it's just really odd. Most knights didn't have more than at the most 2 or 3 squires at a time, and men-at-arms and pages really didn't exist.
Okay,
So
that's fair.
yeah,
Pushing forward, we're 2 questions away from the present. We'll talk about the future. We have some funny. We'll be done. Sir Manthax would like to know your top 3 sword knights.
Okay, and what's funny is that Manthax won't know who any of these guys are.
Oh,
No. My top 3 sword knights are Sir Medeth. These are in no particular order. These are just my 3 top sword knights. Sir Medeth, Sir Aromax, and Sir Leaf.
okay.
Leaf just recently passed away a couple years ago. He was an Iron Mountains sword knight, but I knew him as a 16-year-old kid, and as a 16-year-old kid, he could lay waste to the entire field, just tearing people up. So he was the most amazing fighter I've ever seen. But yeah, and Aromax, he was Leaf's knight. The guy was just a god. And then, but Sir Medeth was actually the guy that would throw the most wicked scorpion rap on you. And then he'd be like, okay, stop. In the middle of a battle game, he'd be like, everyone leave me alone. And he would be like, all right, throw the shot. I'd throw a scorpion rap. He's like, no. Throw it like this. And he'd hit me right in the head. Ow. And then I'd throw the rap again. And that always stuck out to me because he didn't know me. He didn't know who I was. I was just some kid from Dragonspine that was coming up to Burning Lands to be a pain in the butt. And he would stop and go, no. Don't move your shield, move your body, and so that's something that I've always admired, and I've always looked up to him.
Okay. The last question, I'm just gonna put it out there. You asked me to ask this question. What's the difference between Burning Lands then and now?
Yeah, it actually illustrates the difference between Amtgard then and now also. The Burning Lands was these stick jocks, and they were in charge of all of Amtgard. But, they had maybe 40 people, it wasn't a big kingdom, and they held all the power for everything. And, it was all really serious business, very serious business. And Dragonspine was all the flurbs. We were just the flurbs. We were running around, Randall was running around, power to the people, and and breaking out in song. And then, and we were just the flurbs, it was really pure and really fun. And now Burning Lands is a lot more like Dragonspine used to be. I mean, we got some flirby people that are just so amazingly wonderful. And the level of fun, like Sir Manthax, I mean, he brings a level of fun to to what we do so much. And then we got the serious business people like Sir Bex over there, who's AIBOD and blah, 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 very serious and stern. And and we've got all of it. And it's just more fun. It's not as serious in the Burning Lands anymore because it was, like I said, it was serious business. The BLBOD was in charge of all of Amtgard, and it was, you were going to the seat of power for all of Amtgard. And I mean, it could make or break you, really. I mean, it's a lot of the reputation that you gained over in the Burning Lands was something that would follow you everywhere. Mm-hmm. And now no one cares what we think about people, and that's great because well, no, it's because it's liberating and there's not as much pressure. And I love being king of the Burning Lands. I couldn't be king of Dragonspine, but it was a rigged election. But but yeah, what like when they were talking about, hey, yeah, people should be able to like sign up, sign a waiver, pay dues, and vote same day. I was like, let me tell you a story. Yeah, let me tell you a story about how that happened and how the Saracens, the Locahontas Saracens beat me that time. But it's I don't hold a grudge though. So yeah, so it's just fun, and that's something about the one thing I really wish though is I wish it was easier to recruit. Gen Z and millennials just don't want to get hit with sticks, and it's super hard to recruit now. All we had to do was be in the park and people would drive up and stop. We didn't even really have to do much, back in the day. And now it's like, oh my gosh, it's, it's a lot harder because people just, they'd rather stay home and play World of Warcraft than come out and, it's just a lot tougher on it, so that's the big difference is that Burning Lands was serious business and now the Burning Lands is not serious business.
That's great to hear. Less stress and whatnot. Okay,
well,
so
we're not in charge of the card anymore.
There you go. We got through present day. Now we're going to jump to the future. How do you feel about backshield in V9?
I actually had to research this. I had to research it. Thank you, Chris, or thank you, Cato. No, but I had to research it, and it's cheating. It's straight up cheating. If your shield cannot be destroyed, then it's turtle armor and it's garbage. If your shield was a real shield and you got hit with an axe a couple of times and it would go through your shield, or if you got hit with an arrow and it went through your shield straight into your back, then maybe. But no, they got like backpacks. They got like backpack things that they attach to the shields, and they're running around with poles spinning to take the back shots. And I'm like, how about no? How about just no? Because it's cheating. It's straight up cheating. You gotta be able to throw your shield behind your back, because there's like a way of doing that, and just learn how to do it. Don't pretend like you're Captain America with the straps over your shoulders and running around throwing your back at people. I mean, it's just awful. And Cato, that's right, I said it.
I actively laughed out loud when Cato put that question up, and hearing your answer it's so good. It's so good. Okay.
I hope he wasn't serious about wanting that, because I'm gonna have to hit him. So.
What do you believe is the best direction for growth of our game as a whole?
Well, recruitment is something that we have to figure out a way to reach more people. I think the changing how the AmpGuard main group works will really help with that, because if all you saw was the AmpGuard main group, I think you would run screaming. I think that we need to put as many positives out there, and we don't need to cover up our negatives, but people will find out our negatives just by showing up. And I think that putting a positive internet face on everything will help us with the recruitment. I would, in the future, like I said, I would like to see way less gatekeeping. I would like to see people get recognized for being awesome people, love of our fellow nerd. I want that to happen. I don't want a sword knight candidate to be sitting there going, well, I'm not as good as Sir Sane is, so I'll never get a sword belt. Why should that happen? I mean, that makes no sense to me. So I would change that. I would, and this is old school stuff. This is coming from me. we didn't let people fight in tournaments or fight, you had to be wearing garb. So I would emphasize garb more because that will influence recruiting. If everyone looks really cool, people are going to say, hey, I want to look like that guy. I want to, I want my mom to make me a tabard that looks like that. Or nowadays, a couple $100 and you'll never have to make garb again. I mean, because people, there's garb on the internet that's just crazy and it's cheap and it's good. So garb up. If people looked better, if we were nicer to people, I think recruitment would be there. So we just need to be nicer and look better. But I would also like to see our rule system be a little more streamlined. V8 is really great if you're deeply into it, you're studying it really hard. But I think version 8 is a very it's another gatekeeping thing. It's very hard to comprehend what is going on. We've got noobs that are just dead before they even know what hit them. And it's like, no one's explain to them what you're doing, it's, so I think a little simpler rule book, maybe more streamlined, so it's a little more comprehensible, fewer abilities, so that, if someone did this, you knew exactly what it meant. It was going to be a finger of death. So maybe make it simpler. It can be just as much fun and be simpler. I mean, some of the best D&D games I ever played were with the original D&D game, not Advanced Dungeons and Dragons or whatever. The game is what you make it. The rule system will adapt to what you do to it. And I think we won't have as much confusion and there won't be as many things that are broken. Like the druid class is like seriously hardcore. It's hardcore. I mean, you can be a tank. It's ugly. Oh my God. But, so less stuff like that.
Yeah.
And, and like, I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. It's a thing. People utilizing the rulebook is not a bad thing, but I would like to see a streamlined, simpler rule set. What else would I like to see in the future? I would like to see more small events. Like you don't have to have an event where you've got this big campsite with all these cabins and everything. You should be able to throw a tent and a sleeping bag in your car and go be with your fellow nerds and you drive home smelling like a campfire the entire way home. With a hangover. But so I think we can do more that way. You were there for the comm meeting, the Nine Blades presentation and the Viridian Outlands presentation. I don't know what you took away from it, but what I took away from it was glee. This reckless glee. Especially the presenters, the two women that were presenting for Nine Blades, more especially, they were so upbeat and just gleeful. They were just so happy. They were just like, made me want to move to Nine Blades and play with them, because, and their representative, the young man with the long hair and the big beard, kind of looked like a young Aramithras. He did. Sorry, it just happened. But and just he was like full Lurby, and I was like, oh my God, I need to move to Canada and hang out with these people.
Right.
And that's what I want to bring. That's what I want to bring back. I want that level of glee. I don't want, like when I went to Spring War, I caught a lot of that from the people over in CK. Lyriel, the Empress Lyriel, we were at the main table. She kept standing up, and every time she'd stand up, I would stand up. And then she'd go off and leave, and she'd walk back toward the table. I would stand up again, and she'd sit down, and I would sit down. And finally, Morgul, her boyfriend, was like, "Will you stop standing up? Because he's going to stand up every time you do." And she looks at me, and she's like, "Why are you doing that?" I said, "Because you're the you're the monarch of of celestial kingdoms, and I'm a guest in your kingdom. I'm going to give you the respect that you deserve. And she just started laughing. And she was like, oh my God, and so I basically made her day. And she was a lot happier because of it. And I was, I loved Murgle for it. I was like, dude, that was awesome. But I think we just need to be having more fun. And, court can be serious. Yes, court should be serious. But let's have some fun after court. Let's get together and everybody just have a big revel after court and everybody have fun. And just more fun, less drama, less politics. And I think if we start treating people better and if we start recognizing people for their excellence more readily, I think that the problem will solve itself. If people see a more open group that's open to everybody, regardless of anything, gender, social class, whatever social divisions we have, I think that Amcard's the one place where they dissolve. We're all just big nerds. Hey, join the nerd group, jump in the nerd pool. It doesn't matter who you are or what you are in the mundane world. You're just another nerd to me. So let's go nerd. Let's go nerd over there.
Right.
We'll nerd right here. I mean, we can nerd anywhere you want. And I think that would help us out a lot if we just if we stopped treating people and each other like competition. Because Kodiak, you're the king of Dragonspine and I'm the king of the Burning Lands. I'm not in competition with you. I mean, but in the past that did happen. The king of the Burning Lands and the king of Dragonspine, there was a little acrimony going on there. But so I think that if we stop dividing each other and just take it down to the bare bones, we're all freaking nerds, and just love your fellow nerd. And I think everybody will be a much happier, and they'll be and Amcard will be in a better place because we won't have these big gatekeeping arguments, and we won't have people becoming massively disgruntled because they're sitting at 9 roses for 20 years. Mm-hmm. I mean, so I think we can work on it. And I think that, that Flurby Kingdom up in Canada is an example that we all need to look at, and we need to see. I mean, I'm sure they've got their own share of drama or anything, but just by what I saw in the comm meeting, that's what I want. I want, some guy running around in a fur loincloth looking really super nerdy, screaming one, trying to chase somebody down on a fight after death, and I think that's the direction that we would be best to go. Stop worrying about what the rule book says and start worrying about what your people are telling you. Mm-hmm. and what, like the paladin anti-paladin discussion that we've been having. If people want a certain thing, then we can discuss that, and we can come to a middle ground. We can have discussions where we come to a middle ground where we don't have to have people mad at each other for no reason. This is a game. This is our society. This is our hobby. This is what we do. You shouldn't go home on a Saturday, on a Saturday evening mad because something happened at Amcard that was awful. Because that's going to mean that you're going to think about it the next time, and you may not go out next time. Maybe you'll go out in a month. And, that's not something that we want. So be gleeful.
Okay. It's a lot to take in, but you are at the point where you can have a little bit of fun now because we're at the funny questions.
Okay.
Sir Smiley would like to know, who keeps asking you so many questions, and why is it Sir Manthax?
Because it's Sir Manthax, the thorn in my side. No, Manthax is awesome. Yeah, Manthax is special to me actually, so I can't bag on him. Now, Sir Smiley in there, on the other hand, not special to me at all.
Oh,
Hate the guy.
wow. Okay.
No,
Uh,
no.
well, since you gave Sir Manthax the upvote, let's give him another question then. He would like to know, and I'm going to edit the question. His question is, who would you like to punch in the throat? And I'm going to say, who would you want to give a stern finger wag to?
Um, whoever got us in this trademark fight. Oh my God.
Mm,
Yeah, that's the serious one. But the unserious one is Mr. Manthax.
yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Oh, finger. All right. Morgan would like to know, what movie would be better if it was made into a musical?
None of them. You know, my wife and daughter love musicals, and I listen to Cannibal Corpse. So until there's a Cannibal Corpse musical, until there's a death metal musical, I just won't like any of them. So
So you
no,
don't-
but
So you don't think like Predator would be awesome as a musical?
okay, you just made Duchess Cat giggle. She really liked that.
Okay.
No, what would make a Saving Private Ryan would make a great musical.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Lord Tajima would like to know, if the universe is always expanding, what is it expanding into?
The
Entropy.
Yep.
entropy. Yeah, the empty void of space that is ill-defined and unmeasurable.
Yeah, I came with Kodiak to talk about Amcard. Give us science now, please. Okay. Tajima would also like to know, why do we say, "Hey, stranger" to people we don't know?
Because we haven't seen them in a while,
There you go.
and they're a momentary stranger.
We're getting into the important questions of the funny topic. These are the food ones. Morgan
Okay.
would like to know, pineapple on pizza. Give us your opinion.
It's a blasphemy.
Oh,
It is a
okay.
it is a straight up blasphemy.
No, it's not.
Yeah, and Cat's over in the corner going, "No, it's not."
I know.
Gross. Yeah, but I like liver.
I like liver too, but I also can eat pineapple on pizza.
Straight up blasphemy, bro. You're taking a perfectly good pie and you're putting something sweet on it.
That's
I can feel the gorge coming up just even thinking about it. Oh my God.
okay. All right. Tajima would like to know, how much ranch dressing is too much?
When there's more ranch than what you're putting on the ranch on.
Okay. All right.
When your ratio reaches more than 1-to-1.
Okay. You gave a ratio. If it exceeds a 1-to-1 ratio, that is too much. Okay. All right. Maintain the 1-to-1 ratio. Okay. Sir Smiley would like to know, is a hot dog a sandwich?
Yes. It's meat between bread. It's a sandwich.
There it is. Lord Tajima would like to know, if Cinderella's shoe fit perfectly, how did it fall off?
Because her foot got sweaty.
Sweaty feet. It happened. She wasn't wearing socks.
Because it's a glass shoe and she's not wearing socks. I mean, it's gonna get slimy.
Okay. Why does sleeping pills come with a warning, may cause drowsiness?
I have a serious answer because they don't want you to drive, but because it's the redundancy department of redundancy.
Final question. Final question. Tajima had to ask it. Kron did not submit the Ellen like a villain question, so Kron, I got you this week. Is the bare necessities of Kingdom of Kodiak a necessity?
Yeah, this is great. When when you asked me to do it, I was like, well, I don't know why anybody'd want to ask me questions. I'm just some old dude, but it's but I am a time traveler from the year 2001, so so I do have some value as a time capsule, but no, dude, this is cool. I've been thinking about, since this COVID thing's been happening, I've been thinking about doing a fireside chat every Sunday, and just like getting a fire with like a green screen or something, and like talking to the kingdom. But I just it depresses me so much.
Yeah.
That's why I admire what you're doing right now, because the online stuff just makes me really depressed, because I really want to be out having fun with my friends instead of like spending Saturdays, you know, playing World of Warcraft.
Yeah. No, I mean, I would prefer to be out with the people too, but that's just not an option at
But
this
that's
point.
see, that's why I admire this, and I appreciate this and I admire you, because I don't have the energy to push past it,
Mhm.
to do it, because this is exhausting, and I commend anybody that's doing the online stuff. It's exhausting. The crippling lack of knowing. Like, my people are always asking me, so Tristan, when do you think we'll be able to go to the park again? And I'm like, well, what can I say?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know is like the worst possible answer that anybody ever wants. I mean, I don't know.
I feel that.
So yeah, it sucks. But I'm going to forge ahead, and we're going to be doing some things. I'm going to be doing a knighting, and we're going to do a knighting, and it's going to be following all the guidelines that we have, and it's going to happen. Is it ideal? Nope, it's not. But I'm, again, with the lack of gatekeeping, I'm not waiting. I'm not
Uh,
waiting.
I this is an interview show. Is there a spoiler you could give to who's the sword being dropped on?
Uh, Not right now. Not right
Okay.
now. He knows. He knows. But and most of the knights of my kingdom know. But yeah, it's it's going to be masked, social distancing, the whole 9 yards, just like if you were at the grocery store. We're not going to be serving food or anything like that. I've got a 6 foot long sword. Believe it or not, I have a 6 foot long sword, so I can knight someone with social distancing. Um, but yeah, it's going to be a Halloween thing, so it should be fun. But anyway, yeah, so we're going to be doing that, and because I've got to forge on, we've got to find things that we can do. We can't fight on Saturdays, but we could have a social distancing, where we all meet at, let's all go meet at Walmart or something stupid like that. But I mean, but I want to keep everybody as engaged as possible, and we need to do what we can do.
Yeah.
And the thing that we can do is that I can continue giving people the awards that they deserve,
Mhm.
because whether we get to play or not, I'm not making people wait. Why? They've already waited long enough. Let's get this done. Let's keep these people engaged. Let's keep everybody engaged. Eventually we will be back together, and there's going to be so much hugging going on that we're all going to be hugged out.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but until then, we need to just gird our loins and press on and do what we can do. Recruitment doesn't have to stop, so we can try and engage people with the online stuff. There's still people that are joining the Burning Lands page every day,
Mhm.
so we can do that. Anyway,
Right. Okay. So Tristan, that is my last question. Thank you so much for coming on tonight.
thank you, Kodiak. Everyone that's listening, thank you for listening to me ramble on, and I appreciate y'all. And if you have any other questions or anything, um, you can PM me. I'm always open to anything that anybody has to say. I am King of the Burning Lands, and that means that I'm available.
Mhm.
I'm not technically a private citizen. I'm the king. So hit me up if you got any questions. And Zana, PM me. Okay, we can figure something out for you. Okay.
So just a couple announcements for Kingdom Kodiak viewers. Next week will be our 7th month of consecutive weekly shows. 7 months. We will be having on Squire, Emerald, Maelza Arian, Strongheart of the Golden Plains. I'm sorry if I butchered that. And I'm going to be trying really, really super hard to get a 5th week of our Inter-Kingdom, Kingdom of Kodiak. I'm trying to get M-Hog on in 2 weeks. If I can pull that off, if not, I have one other option, but I'm going big, is what I'm saying. But until next time, I've been Kodiak. This has been Kingdom of Kodiak. And thank you. Bye.
Thanks, y'all.